Do not fear, people. I have heard you, and I'm going to yield to your will. We're going to do this one, even though I don't want to. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the NFAC response video that came out in response to the public outcry resultant from the negligent discharge that occurred during one of their marches a few days ago. However, before we do that, got a few disclaimers that we got to throw out there before we get going. Number one, don't really want to do today's video, but you guys are forcing my hand, and therefore we're going to do it kind of like the 50 cal video that occurred where there was a bunch of misinformation being spread, and we're going to quash that here today. Number two, I find very little in the way of common ground with the NFAC. I find their movement to be generally misguided, as we're going to see throughout today's video. They do a pretty good job of sowing the seeds of division by themselves. They don't need any more help to do it, so we're just going to avoid their politics for the rest of today's video. Number three, and this should go without saying, anybody who's watched this channel on a regular basis would know this, I am for all persons of all race, color, creeds, sexual orientations, whatever other metric you want to throw on there, being out there exercising their Second Amendment rights. So that is just not a thing. Generally speaking, when I first saw the whole NFAC march thing, I'm like, cool. Then I started watching the videos from the guy. I'm like, yeah, maybe not so cool. However, in a vacuum, all Americans should own guns. Really scary ones. Number four, the real reason that we're doing today's video is that there was a lot of misinformation disseminated in the video put out by the leader of this group. And as a Second Amendment advocate, I cannot allow that to stand, because that misinformation that was put out makes the guns that we're talking about, the items that we're talking about, seem more dangerous than they actually are. That should not be used as reference material, because pretty much everything that he said is wrong. You have a First Amendment right to say whatever it is the hell that you want. I know that we've forgotten that in today's day and age, but yes, on the street corner, on the internet, doesn't matter, they're equivalent. You have a First Amendment right to say whatever it is, think whatever it is that you care. However, in doing so, that does not protect you from the rights of others to use their First Amendment right to ridicule your ass for your stupid rhetoric. And without further ado, let's start the video.
They didn't get hit with a bullet. Nobody pulled the trigger on them. There were no fingers on the trigger. And anyone who sits up on here and talks about, well, they should have had the safety on. Obviously, you ain't never had an old shotgun. One of the ones that always has a shell in the chamber. Drop it if you want to. Matter of fact,
those two things are mutually exclusive, like the gun being loaded and the safety being off, and like those things don't matter. Continuing.
Let me demonstrate something for y'all. Y'all hold on a second. We're here on the Morning Mental. I'm going to show you just how stupid some people are.
This is going to get good. Sitting in his mom's living room and camera's crooked. Or it's on a laptop and the counter's not level.
This is an XR15 Shorty. We call it a bullpup because this bitch got kicked to it. This bitch will knock you the
Okay. Two things. First, bullpup. It's not a bullpup. This is a bullpup, specifically a Kel-Tec KSG. A bullpup firearm, by definition, is a firearm that has the action located behind the trigger group. So, trigger's up here, action's back here. So, essentially, what that does is it shortens the overall length of the gun, because we don't have a stock stacked on top of an action, stacked on top of a trigger group, stacked on top of a barrel. Basically, we reorder it, and through the powers of geometry, that gets us a shorter gun, but maintains the overall legal length that we need and the barrel length that we need to not be an NFA weapon. So, bullpup, not a bullpup. Notice, trigger group, action. Trigger group, action. We've all met one of these people in our lives. That person that uses words that they think they know what they mean, but they just actually sound good in the sentence, but they have never actually looked up the definition or successfully used it in a sentence.
Because this bitch got kicked to it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is another one of those misinformation things. That's a 5.56 gun. Okay, so 5.56 cartridges. 300 black. It's a 5.56 gun, okay? And not only is it a 5.56 gun, it's a long 5.56 gun, which means, looking at this thing, it's got a rifle-length gas system, okay? A rifle-length gas system is going to be the softest shooting AR-15 that you can possibly purchase.
I pull back the bolt. See that? See the bolt? There's no bullet in there. Pay very close attention.
I think that this guy might actually be intoxicated.
If I'm not paying attention,
sure.
And I take this weapon and I bang it, look what just happened. The bolt goes forward. The weapon has fired.
Stop. I gotta go get some ammo. Live ammunition. I'm just gonna stuff a couple of them and drop some. This is an MI-15F. It's fairly comparable to the gun that he's got there on video. Go ahead and lock the bolt to the rear. You can see, put that in, and oh, it didn't go bang. Well, let's make sure that that's like not a thing. Turn the safety off on this guy. Getting really dangerous here, you know. Oh, it didn't go bang. So what's actually happening is when we stiffly impact the butt of the gun, the way an AR-15 works is there's a block that comes up and holds the bolt to the rear when it's out of ammunition. When you lock the bolt to the rear, the same thing happens. When you impact the butt of the gun moves forward, but essentially because it's a weight under spring tension, that spring compresses a little bit before it reacts forward with the rest of the gun. And that allows the block to fall out of the way and the bolt to go forward. That does not mean that the gun fires. In fact, it will not fire if you do that. So just to demonstrate that one more time, lock the bolt to the rear, smack it. There's no ammunition in this gun. I can pull the trigger and get a click. This gun is completely safe. This is misinformation. It is absolutely someone who I've got to think at this point has never actually operated one of these guns before in his life. I'm seriously questioning it at this point in time because that's just not how the gun works. I'm sorry. Even an open bolt machine gun, as in a gun that you pull the trigger and it drops the bolt, and the act of dropping the bolt does fire the gun. You can't smack it on the ground and make it go off. Like, there's another safety mechanism, and the majority of the guns that I have gone across, all the guns I have come across, has an additional safety mechanism that keeps that from happening because it is an open bolt machine gun. And oh, by the way, open bolt machine guns, other than transferable NFA items, are not purchasable by the general public, which should totally not be a thing, by the way.
If you sit down and you bang this on the ground, you will blow your head off. It happens in basic training every day.
Okay, stop. Totally not a thing. There's no statistics to support that whatsoever. We could probably look up the statistics on how many people are killed in basic training every year. That is completely inflated. That does not exist. That's an outright lie.
An old shotgun, if you drop it, it will fire.
Yes, actually, that's the first thing I've seen in today's video that is accurate. Some vintages of old shotguns will fire when dropped. And that is why at VSO, when we are sent samples for evaluation, our evaluation includes a drop test for all types of firearms. And to date, I have never successfully drop fired a firearm of any type. I suppose SIG probably should have called me before they put out the 320. Hey man, nice to meet you. I'm Curtis from VSOrdnance. One of the services that we provide is field testing and evaluation for new products in the firearms industry. We'd love to get some of your stuff in and see how we can help you guys bring the better product to market. Now man, we're not really interested. We do our own in-house testing and it's really thorough. Oh, okay, cool man. Well, I hope that everything works out great. That was super effective. A old shotgun is not an AR-15.
You shouldn't have your hand on the trigger. You don't have to have your hand on the trigger.
Yeah, actually, that's the way it goes. And words are important, especially when it comes to the 4 rules of firearm safety. And that rule actually goes, keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on target and you've made the decision to shoot. There's a reason we say it that way.
Let me show you again.
Okay, we really don't need to watch this again.
I'm going to sit down. I'm tired.
He looks pretty tired.
Unless you understand weapons for real.
Doesn't understand firearms for real. I'm still convinced he's never actually picked one up, other than what he did in the video right there. He's clearly not familiar with he's either lying, one, or is ignorant of the operation. And I'm not sure which one is worse. You guys can be the judge.
And who don't understand that weapons go off by themselves.
They do not go off by themselves. If I load that gun and set it on the deck, it will not do anything. It will sit there. Case in point, some of the guns in this room stay loaded all the time. This 12 gauge right here. This 12 gauge has literally been sitting here for 2 years. What's that?
Why was he locked and loaded?
Like, they don't do you any good if they're empty. And I really hate the term locked and loaded, by the way. Like, I don't know. Almost every firearm that was carried at the march in that one that happened in Virginia, I guarantee you, those guns were piped. Didn't have any problems.
Because you stood there until you couldn't stand no more.
And is being praised for it. Yeah, cool. Exceeding limitations with a dangerous weapon in public. Yeah, great. That's something that we should totally be supporting. Well, guys and gals, thank God that's over, because I don't know what else to say about that other than, man, there's really only 3 plausible explanations for this. One, the person that we're talking about has no real-world firearms experience or any idea of general safety protocols, how to operate the guns, things like that. In which case, they should not be in a position of command and control over a group of people with firearms. Like, that just shouldn't be a thing. Number 2, person's blatantly lying. In which case, I have very, very little tolerance for that sort of thing, because that gives a general sense of unease towards firearms in general, and that's just not okay, because these guns are designed, as someone who tests guns for a living, they are designed to be safe when operated in a proper manner. These guns obviously were not being operated properly. And the third option, I guess, that we could maybe say is that this person's feigning ignorance in an effort to cover their ass. I don't know anything about the situation in general, whether there's any kind of legal problems going on with this incident right now. I'm sure that there was a police report. There probably will be some kind of charges related to something for somebody, because there were people who were injured. I don't know. But I can generally say that this is someone that we should not be taking firearms advice from. Plain and simple. They've demonstrated that their motivations when it comes to firearms are not pure. And if you are someone who is taking firearms advice from this individual, then please, for the love of God, find another source of information to at least double check the information that you've received, because this is clearly erroneous. This person does not have a solid grasp on what it is that they're talking about. And we would very much welcome you to use us as a resource. I don't get everything right all the time, but I do try my best to do my research and put out the best information I can. When I make a mistake, I will absolutely admit it. This person needs to admit their mistakes, because that's egregious. It's really, really bad. It's probably one of the worst videos from firearms leadership position that I've seen in the last 5 years. Thanks for joining us here today on the VSO Gun Channel. Hopefully I did a good enough job where we can get you guys to come back for a future video here on the VSO Gun Channel. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe. It really helps out. And hopefully we'll see you guys in a future video.